Become a channel member to gain early access to all FiveM scripting videos. Hey guys, it's Alpha, and in today's video I'm going to be showing you how to create a FiveM server from scratch. So there are four main methods to creating a FiveM server. However, one of these does require a Linux operating system installed on my PC, which I don't have unfortunately, so I'm not going to be able to show you that method. So the three I'm going to be covering is the Zap-Hosting method, the txAdmin method, and the Windows Vanilla method. The fourth would be Linux Vanilla, which is exactly the same as Windows, just on Linux instead. So I have uploaded each of these guides separately, just in case you want to go through each one separately, or I've just compiled them into one great video here for you to watch through entirely before you decide which method is best for you. Just so you know, the first method is Zap-Hosting, which is a paid method, but it does mean that your server won't be running on your PC. It will be up 24/7 and you don't have to leave your computer on to have the server running. Whereas the other two methods will require your PC to be on if you want the server to be online as well. So let's get started with the first method, which is Zap-Hosting. So to set up a Zap-Hosting server, you will want to head to zaphosting.com/alpha, and that will take you to the FiveM setup page. As you can see here, the pre-installed game is 5txAdmin, but you can select from a long list of different choices in here. So I would recommend going with 5txAdmin, but for the simplicity of this tutorial, I'm just going to go for 5mod Linux. If you want a breakdown of what each different type can do, I do recommend reading this little prompt just here. If we scroll down, you can see the location of your server. So the default is Germany, but you can choose any that you like, and also you can do a ping check to see the ping from your location to the server of your choice. Scrolling even further down, we've got the game server slots. So this is how many players can join your server at one given time. So I'd say 32 is the recommended starting amount for a new server. If you go above 32 slots, you do need to, as you can see, get a FiveM Patreon membership to get more than, oh no, sorry, it's more than 48 slots, not 32 slots nowadays. So you can go up to 48 slots, like so. And the way that I like to do it is for each 10 slots that you've got, do an extra gigabyte of RAM. Since I've got basically 50 slots, I'm going to do an extra 5 gigabytes of RAM on my server. So then there's total 9.8 gigabytes of RAM. And the additional disk space, so this is useful for if you're streaming a lot of streamed assets like clothes, vehicles, map add-ons, all of that. If you're doing a lot of them, they tend to take up the most space out of all resources. So I'm just going to add an extra 75 gigabytes to my server. Here we've got settlement type, so you've got prepaid or contract. I'd recommend going for contract because it's cheaper and it just means you pay monthly for your server. Or if you don't want to pay monthly, you can extend your billing period. Let's say you wanted to pay quarterly or biannually or once a year. You do get discounts for paying for longer periods at a time. Here we've got the CPU and host server. So this is if you want to upgrade the hardware that your server's running on, it will increase the performance of the server. So I'm going to go for a premium one just so the server runs much faster. So you've got M.2 SSD, gaming CPU, and much faster RAM for the server as well. Own IPv4 address. This will give you a IPv4 that will retain even if you switch between games or types of FiveM server, and it will also use the default port for FiveM, which is 30120, giving you better DDoS protection as well. Speaking of DDoS, you've got DDoS Manager Overview. So this is if you don't have your own IPv4 address, you can get access to this. You'll already have access to this if you get your own IPv4, but if you get a DDoS attack, you can see where it came from and all the details about it to help avoid happening again in the future. So now we get to payment. So if I'm going to pay with PayPal, you can also go down to the use voucher and then put in my discount code ALFA and then redeem that, and that will give you a 20% discount. There you go. So now that I've put in the Alpha discount, it's given me 20% off the original price. So now it's only $64.18, and I can press buy now, and then that will purchase the server for me. So after purchasing the server, I just let it start up, which took about 3 minutes, and then now we're on the web panel page for the server. So the first thing you're going to see is that you've got your active game, which I've selected the Linux version, so that's what I've got installed. And you also see the IP address. This is what you'd need to connect to your server. But as you can see right now, the server is offline. So I can press the big green play button to start the server up, but I'm not going to do that just yet because we just need to configure some things. Here we can see the location, status, and lots of other information about the server. And when it's online, we can see the CPU, RAM, and slot usage. On the left here, we've got 3 panels. So we've got information, settings, and tools. If we extend the information panel, we can then see things like statistics, DDoS manager, TebEx shop, which is how you'd monetize your server. So you can do sales or donations through that. If we minimize the information panel and go to the settings panel, we can see we've got settings, configs, games, versions, resources, and restart planner. So we'll go into settings first. So in here we can see we've got restart game server after crash automatically. So that's if your server crashes, it will restart it for you without having to be here. We've got the server listing project name. So this is what comes up in the server list basically. So it'll just be Zap-Hosting by default, but we can change that. So I'll just change mine to Alpha's server, for example, and then that will change that. And then we've got the project description. So as you can see, it's basically the secondary text that shows up in the server listing. So I could say use code Alpha for 20% off, for example. Admins, so this is, you'd need to put in the Steam ID 64s of the players that you want to be admins. So you can get your Steam ID 64 and paste it in there, and you will be an admin on your server. Configure database, I would recommend just leaving that to configure automatically, but you can, if you know what you're doing, disable that and do it yourself. Language, so if resources have the language locals, then you can set it to English UK, English USA, for example, or whatever language you wish your server to be. Otherwise, you can just leave it as standard and configure yourself. Script hook, so this is if you want client-sided menus, so basically like a V menu, but on the client side. If you want that to be able to be used by people, then you can turn that on. If you want it to be only your server resources that can be used, then turn that off. Server tags, so this is what people can filter by in the server listing. So if you've got a roleplay server, you could type roleplay, then you separate them with a comma. If you have an economy server, you can put economy, for example, and so on. Game type, this doesn't actually change anything, it's just displayed on the FiveM server listing. So let's say you're doing roleplay, you could just put roleplay in there, for example. One sync, so if you've got more than 32 slots in your server, I recommend activating that. You've got your Steam Web API key, so if you are using Steam Web API resources, then you can put that into there basically. Here we've got the game build, so this is what DLC you want the game to be up to. So obviously you've got different versions, so this is the most up-to-date version as of when I'm recording this video. Down here you've got a bunch of resource specific settings that Zap-Hosting will support. So let's say Dunko VRP, which is a framework. If you install that, then you've got a setting here, but you'll need to install the plugin, which you can do just by pressing this link just here. And same for all the other ones. So if you wanted the loading screen one, you can just press that and it will install the plugin for you. But I'm just going to leave all of these disabled for now. At the bottom here, you've got the game port. So obviously if you wanted to change this, you can, but with my settings, I cannot. So I'm just going to save all of my changes down here. And then we can go to configs next. So in configs, we've got the server.cfg, so we can press the blue pen icon to open the file and change the server.cfg as we see fit. But I'm just going to abort that for now because I don't need to make any changes. On the versions, as you can see, it shows your currently installed version and the latest version, and you can change between them if you wish. So change game version, and this shows me all the versions that I can switch between. On the resources page, as you can see, these are all of the resources that Zap-Hosting support. So you can just press this single button and it will install the resource as easy as that. Restart planner is if you want your server to restart automatically once or twice a day, for example, you can do that. So you can just press add, and then we do daily, and then you add the time, and you can also do it so then if you want to start an offline server, it will do that as well, and that will just automatically restart the server as and when you wish for it to do so. Here we've got the FTP browser, so I've got all the credentials for an FTP connection. So I tend to use FileZilla, but you can use WinSCP if you so wish to. You can just press that button to download it, and then you can put in your credentials, and then you can access your server's files if you want to add custom resources within. So I'm just going to head back to the dashboard and start up the server, which is easy as just clicking, and then the server will start up. I can view the console just here to see the scripts that are running. just like on a local hosted server. There we go, so the server is now online. So what I can do now is boot up FiveM, and then I can paste in this IP just here, and I'll be able to connect to the server. So as we can see here, when the server is in your listing, it will show the name of the server, and as we said earlier, it shows the description as well. Use code Alfa 20% off. So what you can do, obviously yours might not be here, is press F8 and type connect and paste the IP, and that will connect you directly to your server, and it may need to restart because it may be running a different game version. And now we are into the server, so if there are other people on the server, you'll be able to see them. And if I go back to the web page, as you can see under players, it says 1 of 10 online, and if I press the I, it shows me and my Steam ID. So this is what I'd grab if I want to make myself an admin. So I'd copy that, just there, Steam, colon, and then the string of text and characters, and then paste that into the admin section to make myself an admin. So that is absolutely everything that I can cover for the Zap-Hosting server guide. If you do decide to get yourself a Zap-Hosting server, there's lots of things I didn't cover, so please feel free to have a look around the web panels, and also there is a brilliant support team that's always waiting to give you assistance if you do need it. So that was the Zap-Hosting method. Next up is the txAdmin method. So the first thing we're going to do is head to the FiveM docs, where we can see the setting up a server using txAdmin guide. And the first thing we're going to do is go to the Windows server build listing, which contains the artifacts for the server, and we're just going to download the latest recommended file. Once that's downloaded, we're going to head to our file explorer, and we're going to create a folder in a directory of our choosing. I'm just going to do it in my local disk D, and I'm going to call this one FiveM, like so. And then in here, I'm just going to open a new file explorer on the downloads page, and the compressed server file that we just downloaded, I'm going to bring into this FiveM directory. Once we've done that, I'm going to go ahead and select it and right click, and then I'm going to extract here, like so, and then we can get rid of the compressed server file that we just extracted. Now, if we scroll down, we will see a pink logoed fxserver.exe. We are going to run this, and this will start up a console, and you'll get a security alert. So this is for your firewall. This is basically port forwarding. So if you allow this, it should set up a port forwarding rule for you, meaning that you don't have to port forward your server for other people to join. Once this console has opened, it should also open on your browser this web page for the txAdmin web panel. And then if it doesn't autofill, you can find this code in just here on the console. But for me, it has autofilled, and I can just press link account. Then you'll need to link your cfx.re account. If you don't have one, you can go ahead and create one. Then you can just create a backup password. This is just so you can get in here just in case the auth provider doesn't work. So I'll just create a password in here, and then you can agree to the terms of service and create a master account. Once you're in here, this is your recipe deployer for your server. It's going to create the server just how you like it, basically. So it will automatically set the default profile for you. You can just press next, and what we're going to do is set up the settings for the server. So you can change the server name. So I'll call this Alpha's txAdmin server, and we'll press next. And then you've got deployment type. So I recommend going for the popular recipes unless you know what you're doing and you've maybe owned a server before, then you'll go for these ones. But for starters, just go for the popular recipes, as that will have everything you need to get started. So then we've got the select template. So you've got CFX default FiveM. This will just be a base server basically. And then you've got ESX legacy, which is the ESX framework. Then you've got the QB core framework. So these are both roleplay for FiveM. These bottom two are for RedM, so Red Dead Redemption roleplay servers. Obviously we're not doing Red Dead Redemption, so we'll just leave those two. So if you want QB core, which is the most popular one nowadays, you can go ahead and select that one. Or ESX legacy, which is a more older framework, which still has all the great functionality that role players need. I'm just going to select the default FiveM server for this example, but feel free to select these if you'd like. Then you've got the data location. So what we're going to want to do here is go to our file explorer, and in here we want to make a new folder called server-data. It doesn't have to be called that, but I recommend calling it that. And then we're just going to go ahead and copy this directory. And then you're going to want to replace the txData basically. Keep the CFX default FiveM, just like that. And then save. And then you can go to the recipe deployer. So here you've got your recipe. If you know what you're doing, you can change this, but I highly recommend leaving as it is and pressing next. And then you've got your license key. So we're going to need to open the Keymaster web page. You can do that in a new tab. And then once that connection is secure, you'll just need to sign in and accept the terms of service. So here you can see I've got a bunch of previous servers which I've just trashed off because they are no longer used. But what I have here is an active server which is vanilla home hosted. So I can use this same auth key because it's going to have the same IP as my computer from a previous time I created one of these tutorials. So if I just click on the ID, that will then show me the information about it. So you've got IP and also the key. So I'm going to copy the key and then go back to the server deployer and paste the key in here. And then I'm going to run the recipe. And this will open up the server directory for me. So I've got all the resources and the server.cfg if I want to edit that. Now I'm just going to close that. And as you can see, it says the recipe has executed. So I can press next. And now I can configure the server.cfg. So as you can see, we've got the project name here. So it says Alpha's txAdmin server, but it will also show CFX default FiveM at the start. So I'm just going to get rid of that like so. And you've got project to description. So I can put, for example, subscribe to Alpha. There we go. And then we've got a bunch of other things about admins, which you can then add yourself in. But as you can see here, it's already added me in because it's got my FiveM account linked through the cfx.re account. So now I can save and run the server, and this is automatically starting up the server for me. And that will just be doing the exact same on this local console here. So if we head back to the web admin console, we can also see things like resources, and then all of the resources. If I show them the default resources, this is the ones that we've got. So they're all just running, and I can restart them if I want to, stop them, all of that. And we've got some other ones that don't run by default, but I can start them if I wish to. It's just very easy and nice to use the txAdmin web panel. And we can go to the dashboard. This just shows the performance of the server. I can also control it, start, restart, stop it. And if I want to integrate a Discord bot, I can do that too. And I can also add other admins as well. So if I go to admin manager, I can add another admin in here. So if you got one of your friends that you want to be able to restart the server when you're not available, you can add them in here and they'll be able to access this page as well. Then we've got the player tab. So in here, if there's any players in the server, obviously there's none right now, but if I can access the server, I'll show up here. I can kick myself, I can send a message to myself, for example, ban myself, all of that. It's just a nice way to manage the players. We've got diagnostics. This just shows all the information about the server that you might need if you are getting to more advanced things within FiveM development. So anyway, that's enough talking. If I now boot up FiveM and hop into the server. So because I am hosting this server on my own PC, as you can see here, just below the play button, it says connect to Alfie's desktop on LAN, or I can do F8, type connect and type localhost, which will do the exact same thing. And as you can see here, I'll just need to restart the server to become on the same game version as the server. So I'm now in the server, and since we have txAdmin, if I go into the chat panel and type /tx, that will open up the txAdmin menu. This will only be usable for admins, and I can do things like God mode. I can teleport to waypoints, for example. I can spawn a vehicle if I like. So if I type in model name adder, for example, that will spawn in the adder. I can reset the world area with a range of 100, for example, and that will just delete all living entities, basically, within a range of 100. And then I can press tab to switch between main players and txAdmin. And as you can see, we've got me, so I can kick myself, give me admin, or the example. Get drunk, that would just make me drunk, and you know, I just get the drunk effect in the background. I've got more information about myself, so my IDs, for example, my history, all of that useful information. And then we've got the txAdmin panel. So this is basically the web panel, but just from within the server. It's very useful in case you don't want to tab out to access all of the txAdmin information. I can just press escape to get out of there, and as you can see, I'm still drunk from making myself drunk in the txAdmin panel, and it's just wearing off now. If I just delete that vehicle like so, And then I can also toggle player IDs, and that will put an ID of the player above the head. I can also do things like sending an announcement. If I just put test, and there you go, that will show to every person within the server. I'll just go ahead and quit out of FiveM now. If I want to stop the server, I can just go to dashboard and press stop, and that will close down the server. And also on the console here, you'll see server shutdown imminent, kicking all players, and it shows that it's closed. So I can go ahead and close that console. And now in my local file directory, I've actually got, as you can see in the FiveM, server data, CFX default FiveM, and obviously I've got my server.cfg resources and all of the good stuff in there. If I go back to the FiveM folder, or sorry, in the local disk D, you'll see I've got tx data and a start 6683 default.bat. So if I run that, that will actually start up the server. So that will be how you start up the server after it's closed for the first time. And I can just close that down now. So that was the txAdmin method, and finally we have the Windows vanilla method. So first of all, we're going to head to the FiveM docs where the guide for setting up a vanilla FX server is located. And the first step is creating a new directory. So what we're going to do is we will just put the guide up on a different screen. So we're going to head to our directory of choice. I'm just going to use my local disk D, and in here I'm going to create a folder and I'll call it FiveM, like so. And then we're going to head to the Windows Server build listing, and we're going to download the latest recommended. You can do optional or a specific version of choice, but I'm just going to go for the latest recommended. So now that's downloaded, I'm just going to head into my downloads and drag this server compressed file into the FiveM directory that we just created. And now I'm going to select that and extract it here, like so. And then we can delete the server compressed file that we just downloaded. Then we're going to download the CFX server data folder. So this takes you to a GitHub, and you can just press on the green button and press download zip. And once again, we're going to open our downloads folder and bring the CFX server data compressed file into our FiveM directory. And then what I'm going to do with this is I'm just going to take the dash master off the end, because that's a GitHub thing. So if it's just CFX server data, and then I'm going to right click this and extract it here as well. And then we can get rid of the compressed file. And once again, I'll just get rid of the master off the end of the folder name. And now we can go into the CFX server data folder. And in this directory, we're going to press right click, go to new, and create a text document. Now you're going to want to have your file name extensions on, so you can change it from a txt to a CFG file. I'm going to name this server.cfg like so, and it will say that the file name extension is going to be changed, so you just want to confirm with that. Then on the guide, if we scroll down, you'll see a server.cfg example. So this in this embedded section is what we're going to want to copy. And then we're going to want to paste this into our server.cfg, like so. And in the server.cfg, you'll see it's got all of the default resources, which will start automatically. And then you've got some other settings, such as the server name. So I'm going to change that to Alpha's Windows Vanilla Server. And the project name will just be the same as the host name. And the project description, I can put subscribe to Alpha, for example. Then we've got system admins. So if you know your FiveM ID, you can paste that here where the 1 is, and that will make you an admin within the server. Then you've got max clients. So if you want to set the max amount of players that can join, then you can change that. But if it's anything above 48, you do need a FiveM Patreon subscription. If you want to use Steam authentication or anything like that, you do need to set a Steam Web API key, which you can do by following this link just here. Something we also need to do is change the license key for the server. So if we head to this link just here, so if I hold Control and click it, that will open the link. And it takes us to the cfx.re keymaster, and we can just sign in with our cfx.re account. And as you can see on here, I've got some previous servers from my previous tutorials, but this one is from a vanilla home hosted server that will be on the same IP as my computer right now. So what I can do is just press the IP, and that will also get me the key, which I can copy, and we can paste into the server.cfg. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get rid of change me and paste the license key, and then we'll save that, and then we can go ahead and close the server.cfg. And now what we're going to do is we're going to go back to our local disk D directory, or wherever the same directory is that has your FiveM folder, and then here we're just going to create a new text document, and we'll call this one start server.bat. This is a .batch file, which we're then going to edit. And then we're going to want to type cd /d, and then we're going to get the directory of our server data folder. So that would be just here. And then we will copy that. And then we're going to paste that in there, like so. And then on the next line, we're going to paste the same directory, but then get rid of the cfx server data. And then instead, we're going to type fxserver.exe, like so, with a capital FX and S. And then we're going to do space plus exec for execute, and then server.cfg, like so. And then we're going to save that. And now if we run that, that will start the server. As you can see here, it's just running all of the resources, and it's just building all of the webpacks for the yarn resource. So now all of the resources have started. So if I boot up FiveM, I'll then be able to connect to the server. So as you can see here, because it's hosted on my own PC, just below the play button, it will say connect to Alfie's desktop on LAN. Or if that's not there for you, you can always type press F8 and type connect, and then put local host, and that will connect you to your local server. As you can see, it's running on a different game version, so I need to just update my client to the same version as the server. And now it's spawned me into the server, so this will be a completely base server with no txAdmin or anything like that. There'll just be no custom resources. It's just completely base server. So there'll be nothing like roleplay related in here, and there'll be like no /cars or anything like that, no admin. So this is really useful if you just want a completely base server to start from with no popular resources in it and you wanted to make your own resources. So I'll just close FiveM. And now we can also close the server just by closing down the console, and then this is ready for us to work on. If you are following my creating a FiveM roleplay server from scratch series and you want everything to be exactly the same as mine, then you should use this guide, as this is the one that I use in my series. Obviously, if you want txAdmin, feel free, I'm not going to stop you. If you want to use Zap-Hosting so your server's up all the time and you want people to start playing on it, also, do not blame you, go for it. It's a lot more useful as well, especially for things like DDoS protection and uptime checking. So that is all 3 methods. This video took a long time to create. I had to go through every single method there is. So if you can please support the series by using my discount code Alfa at Zap-Hosting, leaving a like, leaving a comment, sharing with your friends, all of that is much appreciated. As always, if you need any support, please join the support Discord linked in the description. We've got over 1,000 members now and we're still growing, and I'd love to see you there too. But that is absolutely everything for today, and I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.